ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुमिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तामनुपेत्य अपेत्यकृत्यं स्वपनो विरह कातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तर्वो विनेदुस् तं सर्वभूतं हृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नारं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। भक्त्या विहीना परारलक्ष्यै कीर्तष्टिकामारी तरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वं नयनं चरणन्दिके। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Leda Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pada Sto Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhayacharya Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharshila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Leda Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pada Sto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupana Guru Varga, all these humble Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. Gotta close this thing. I had it open, hoping that smoke would come out and kill the smell of that skunk, but it didn't. No smoke came out. Yep, we have this wandering skunk, and he chose to wander under the temple building, and so that fragrance is pervading. So, after having offered obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the humble Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, we continue with our hearing about Lord Shiva. Siva Tattva, because yesterday was Shiva Ratri. And we've been reading excerpts from the book Siva Tattva, which is based on the lectures of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and stories from the Krishna book of Srila Prabhupada about Lord Shiva's interactions during Krishna's pastimes here, and with others as well. So, there's a section now which is the post and the person, right? And we heard some things yesterday that, let's see, so did we hear? I can't remember what we read yesterday. Anyway, basing this on the discussions in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj gives some background that Narad wanted to proclaim the glories of Lord Shiva, and he had praised him as the greatest devotee of Sri Krishna. And of course, being the great devotee that he is, Lord Shiva became upset by hearing those praises. And then he related different stories to prove that he was not actually a great devotee. He wanted to establish Prahlad as greater than him. And in fact, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that's what it does. It goes progressively to different kinds and different levels of devotees. But even though Prahlad Maharaj was cited by Shivaji as greater than him, Srila Narayan Maharaj explains that Prahlad cannot enter into Sri Krishna's transcendental abode, Vrindavan. Right? Prahlad, very glorious, no doubt, and his relationship with Lord Nrsingadev, his Vaishnava qualities, everything, very remarkable. But we also understand the qualification of devotees based on who is their Ishtadev and what is their rasa, what is their relationship, right? How deeply developed has their love come, right? So, Lord Shiva has two identities in Braj. He's Gopishwar, and he also appears in his form as Shiva and does so many different services. And he and his wife, Parvati Devi, meditate on Ashtakalya Leela, right? Krishna's daily eightfold pastimes. And these are very confidential pastimes, Srila Gurudev explains. Yet they're able to meditate upon them, right? So he says that there are two perspectives from which we can understand the identity of Lord Shiva. From the position of his post and from the point of view of his personality. And as a personality, separate from his post, he appears as an associate of the Supreme Lord. And he says, such as Gopishwar, Hanuman, Bhima. These are all expansions, forms of Lord Shiva, right? That the qualities of Lord Shiva are imbued in these personalities as well. As Gopishwar, he resides eternally in Vrindavan. As Hanuman, he always associates and serves Lord Ram. As Bhim, he always serves Lord Krishna. And when Hanuman and Bhima combine together, as in the present age of the Kali Yuga, they become Madhavacharya, our Sampradaya Guru. Okay, so he goes on to explain that from the point of view of Lord Shiva's function as the god of annihilation, and also that of Brahma as the secondary creator of the universe, those considerations of Shiva and Brahma are actually posts, right? They're assigned the position of secondary creator and destroyer. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are not ordinary human beings, but their posts are like that of the president or prime minister of a nation, wherein the man representing the post has to perform a certain defined job. So both as the post and the person, Shiva is superior to Brahma, right? Because as the person, right, in Vrindavan, in his role as Gopishwar, and Lord Shiva, Brahma can only visit Vrindavan, occasionally witness, but he's not entered into an identity yet as an eternal servitor. So, Lord Shiva is an expansion of Lord Vishnu, but sometimes the jiva may become Shiva's expansion known as Rudra. Right, there are many different forms of Lord Shiva. There's the original Gopishwar, and then there's, Mahadev in Braj, right, in that original godlike form. Then there's the Sadashiv on the Sadashiv planet. This form is like Vishnu Tattva. Then there's Shambhu, who is that special transformation, not a transformation of Mahavishnu, but a special quality, which we're going to hear about from the Brahma Samhita, a special form that is able to interact with the material nature. Because Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, will not interact with the material nature directly. So he interacts for the purpose of creation through that special Shambhu form, who carries the living entities, who embodies the time factor, who carries the desire seed of creation and implants all of that into the heart of Parvati, the expansion of Ramadevi, the goddess of fortune, the consort of Mahavishnu. And in those forms, they carry on that function, right? So, from the point of view of Lord Shiva's function as the god of annihilation, and also that of Brahma as the secondary creator of the universe, Shiva and Brahma are actually posts. I read that. Okay. Both as the post and the person, Shiva is superior to Brahma. Lord Shiva is an expansion of Lord Vishnu. But sometimes a jiva may become Shiva's expansion known as Rudra. Right. And aside from Shambhu, there are Rudra expansions, 12, and the first Rudra is born from between the eyes of Lord Brahma when he was in an angry mood, right? And Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Radha Manjuki Jai Shrimati Lalita Shrimati Vishaka Shri Rupa Manjari Shri Dati Manjari Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. And these Rudra expansions, living entities may become one of them. How? If a man purely performs the duties of Varnashram for 100 births, he may become Brahma. He may attain that post. And if a person in the post of Brahma carries out his function expertly for 100 births, he becomes qualified to perform the function of Shiva in his manifestation as Rudra. Shiva's post is therefore superior to that of Brahma, and Shiva is more powerful than Brahma, right? And this is cited in the 5th canto, 20th chapter, in the purport, 33rd verse. The Vedas say, Svadharmanishta shatajamibir puman vininchitam eti. One who strictly follows the principles of Varnashram Dharma for at least 100 births will be rewarded the post of Lord Brahma. That's Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, now what is the function? Oh, can you pull out the air in that a little bit? Yeah. Or put it in? Yeah. What is the function of Lord Shiva's post? And why is it superior to that of Lord Brahma? One reason is that Lord Brahma cannot execute pralaya, the complete destruction of the universe, a very dangerous thing, whereas Shiva can do so. Shiva's function as destroyer is similar to that of a farmer who plants and cultivates a large area of wheat. The farmer carefully waters and nourishes the crop, guarding it from animals, and after 5 or 6 months, the wheat matures and ripens. Then, either by hand or by machine, the farmer harvests the plants and carefully removes the grains from their shafts. The rest of the plant matter becomes refuse, subject to rotting and attracting disease, vermin and snakes, so the farmer sets fire and burns it. Also, it nourishes the ground again. The nutrients in those stalks go back into the ground. This is very common. You see this all the time in India. At the end of the harvest season, there are these piles in the fields and big fires. One time when we were on Parikram, we were going on buses through these farm roads, and we were going between a couple of fields where that burning was going on. And the burning was so intense you couldn't even see. And I don't know for what reason, some reason the bus stopped. One of our buses, the farmer stopped the bus. The driver. Maybe because he couldn't see, I don't know. But a couple of ladies freaked out because you couldn't see, it was choking. And they were trying to get out of the bus, right? And so they opened up the window and tried to climb out. One devotee, actually Deva's mother, cracked her head, got all bloody and everything. But, this is how they do it. They just burn the fields. And for a few hours, you can't see anything. Right? So, but it's a very effective way of putting the nutrients back. But also the farmer, like Lord Shiva, he assists in the process of creation because he plants. And Lord Brahma is the secondary creator, the creator of the planets and the bodies of the living entities. But Lord Shiva still has a role in overseeing and administering to things in this realm. But at the end, just as a farmer will burn to ashes what's left, Lord Shiva burns to ashes, or two kinds of devastation, actually. One at the end of Lord Brahma's day, and one at the end of his life. At the end of his day, he rests in a mystic sleep within the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and the conditioned entities enter there as well. Right? And this is a quote about this in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 18th and 19th verse. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest state again. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. And then the Bhagavatam, we'll quote that in a moment. So while the entire universe is submerged in water, the living entities rest in their subtle bodies within the transcendental body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. They await the start of the next day of Brahma, the next material creation or manifestation. Some of them become liberated, and some do not. So Lord Brahma, at the end of his day, he enters into Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? And the living entities, they enter into him, and they enter into that body as well, and they're in a sleeping state, dormant state. Once again, no body, right? They're just sleeping. So, waiting to come out again. So then, he's going to explain more, but I'll quote this part from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 11th chapter. At the end of the day, under the insignificant portion of the mode of darkness, the powerful manifestation of the universe merges in the darkness of night. By the influence of eternal time, the innumerable living entities remain merged in that dissolution, and everything is silent. The dissolution of the three worlds is effected by the incarnation of darkness, Rudra, represented by the fire of eternal time, which blazes over the three worlds. These three worlds are known as Bhu, Bhuva, and Sva, Patala, Marja, and Svarga. The innumerable living entities merge into that dissolution, which appears to be the dropping of the curtain of the scene of the Supreme Lord's energy. And so everything becomes silent. And then he goes on in that same sequence of verses. It is said that the blazing fire from the mouth of Sankarshan rages for 100 years of the demigods, or 36,000 human years. Then for another 36,000 years, there are torrents of rain, accompanied by violent winds and waves, and the seas and oceans overflow. People forget all these devastations of the worlds and think themselves happy in the material progress of civilization. This is called Maya, or that which is not. And then from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 10th verse, thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord himself, in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds. This creation is very appropriately compared to clouds. So there's two kinds of descriptions. One where everything is annihilated by flood, and one by fire. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Gopakumar experiences a partial pralaya, where the fire consumes up to the planets of the sages. And the sages take shelter of their highest planets to be freed from that burning. But during that night, Lord Brahma is sleeping, and so there's not much going on. Gopakumar not having any connection with the earthly realm or Lord Jagannath, and he's just in an environment of meditators. He's a little unhappy. No real seva. Everything is kind of dormant and sleepy. But it's described that there's two stages of that. First the burning, and then the flooding. So in both cases there is flooding. So while the entire universe is submerged in water, the living entities rest in their subtle bodies within the transcendental body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So they carry their subtle body, and the subtle body is the sum total of their collective karmic experience and the seeds which will award them their various kinds of birth and subsequent enjoyment and suffering. They carry the subtle body with them so that when they are generated again, they get a form, an external form, according to what is stored in that subtle body. So they await the start of the next day of Brahma and the next material creation or manifestation. Some of them become liberated and others do not. When Lord Brahma completes the 100 celestial years of his life, Lord Shiva again performs this duty of destruction. At that time, all the spirit souls enter into the body of Karnadakshay Vishnu or Mahavishnu. At the end of each day of Lord Brahma, all souls enter Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And at the end of Brahma's life, even the millions of manifestations of Garbhodakshay Vishnu enter Karnadakshay Vishnu along with the spirit souls. At the time of creation, Karnadakshay Vishnu generates innumerable manifestations of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and at the time of complete annihilation, they enter back into his body. Okay, so when Brahma's life is ended, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, they go back into Karnadakshay Vishnu, along with all the living entities that are still within the universe's conditioned, right? Now, there's going to be a number of verses quoted here. The first one is from the 10th chapter of the first canto, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, the 21st verse. There are two types of dissolution of the manifested cosmos. At the end of every 4,320,000,000 solar years, when Brahma, the Lord of one particular universe, goes to sleep, there is one annihilation. That's one day, 12 hours of Lord Brahma. Right? And so he takes rest at the end of his day. And at the end of Lord Brahma's life, which takes place at the end of Brahma's 100 years of age, in our calculation, see, that would be 1 day and 1 night combined, which would be 8,640,000,000 years, times 30, 30 days equals 1 month, times 12, times 100. I can't even imagine what that number is. I have to calculate that right now.
Zillions?
We're talking trillions or gazillions here. Let's see. We got 4,320,000,000 times 30 times 12, that's 360, times 360, times 100. Egads. It won't show. It doesn't have enough zeros on this. Let's see. Yeah, error. Anyway, it's a lot. What's it times 360? Anyway. 360. Oh, man. That's more than trillions. I think we're into the gazillions. Anyway, long time. So, complete annihilation. And in both periods, both the material energy called the Mahat Tattva and the marginal energy called Jiva Tattva merge into the person of the Supreme Lord, back to Mahavishnu. Then, from the second canto, 6th chapter, Karnadakshay Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And he is the master of eternal time, space, cause, and effects. Mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of material nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord. He's the source of Garbhodakshay Vishnu and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. So this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that again shows that Karnadakshay Vishnu is the source of the Jiva souls in this realm. Srila Prabhupada also mentions it in his introduction in the 8th canto, 3rd chapter, that Mahavishnu, all the living entities in the material universes come from Mahavishnu. Right? So he says it right there in the Bhagavatam. No contradiction, no doubt. We didn't come from Goloka Vrindavan and fall here. We came from Mahavishnu, or special Jiva Tattva. Right? So, Lord Shiva is not a living entity, but he is also not in the category of Lord Vishnu. He is much more powerful than any living entity, up to Lord Brahma. However, he is not equal to Lord Vishnu, because he is almost as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can see the 3 phases of time, past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun, and another is like the moon. He also has a 3rd eye located between his eyebrows. It is from this 3rd eye that he generates fire and employs it at the time of universal destruction. So we're doing Shiva Tattva, but we're getting a sense of his multiple roles and his relationship with Lord Brahma. That can be confusing. What is their co-function as overseers of the material universe, but what are their specific functions as well? So, seen from this perspective, the destroyer, Lord Shiva, cannot serve Sri Krishna directly because he is engaged at his post. Those souls who are liberated after hundreds of thousands of lifetimes of devotional practice, having renounced all responsibilities and concerns of the world, including occupations like that of Brahma and Shiva, and who constantly hear about, glorify, and remember Lord Krishna, take birth in this world as pure devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. This was told by Lord Shiva to Sri Narad. This is why Lord Shiva's feeling, oh, Prahlad is greater than me. He's a pure devotee, took birth. I am this functionary. I have responsibilities here. I have to associate with those in the mode of ignorance. I give blessings to demons. He's seeing he thinks that his post is obscuring his higher devotional qualities, right? Prahlad Maharaj has nothing to do with this world, nothing to create or demolish. He rejected all such affairs as insignificant. Although he had inherited a large kingdom, it was controlled and governed by his ministers. His senses were totally absorbed in the transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. He was always engaged in hearing the name and glories of the Lord, singing and speaking about his glories, remembering and meditating on him, offering prayers, carrying out his orders, and fully surrendering to him. Right? So devotees in Prahlad's category have no need to approach Lord Krishna's manifestations like Lord Nrsingadev and Lord Ram, for the Lord personally comes to them in these forms. That's one of the remarkable things about Prahlad Maharaj. He never once asked for the Lord to save him from this difficult situation. His mood was Sharanagat, so surrendered that whatever the Lord wants to do with me, I'm fine with that. However he wants to use me. Even as a 5-year-old boy, he is simply fixed in that meditation, right? And dependency, no attachment. Lord Shiva told Sri Narad that because he is always engaged in the post of controlling the universe, he can neither see nor offer services to the Lord daily, as Prahlad Maharaj sees Lord Vamandev or Lord Nrsingadev. Vamandev and Nrsingadev are both manifestations of the Supreme Lord, who regularly gives Prahlad his divine association and the opportunity to serve and offer obeisance at his lotus feet. So this humility of the devotee, Lord Shiva is thinking, oh, he's so much fortunate than me. But who also thinks like that? The gopis think like that, right? In the Bhagavatam, the 21st chapter, they're glorifying all the different kinds of devotees in Vrindavan. and the clouds, the rivers, the deer, and seeing in them qualities of devotion that they wish they had. Oh, they're so much more dear and fortunate than we are. Right? The greater the humility, the greater the prem, the greater you see the glories of others. And the more materially contaminated we are, the more egocentric we are, the less we can appreciate the devotional sentiments of others. We simply find fault. And in that fault finding, we even dig ourselves deeper, because then those so-called bad qualities that we see, by meditating and directing our consciousness onto them, they come into our heart. Right? So it's a terrible trap to be in. So although both Brahma and Shiva are actually superior in bhakti to Prahlad Maharaj, their posts involve contact with the three gunas, or modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. The role of Lord Brahma is creation and procreation in Rajagun, the mode of passion. Lord Shiva's role of demolition and dissolution is in Tamagun, the mode of ignorance. It is for this reason they are called guna avatars, incarnations of the material qualities. So that's that form of Lord Shiva, which we'll hear about in the Brahma Samhita, which has a tinge of Tamagun. Right? He also has a tinge of Siva Tattva, a tinge of Samvit, I believe Ladini, that will be all described in that section. But he's a combination of qualities. But he also has the self-conception, the abhiman, of being a Purusha. And he is a Purush. He is a controller. He is a Lord. But in that form, he's not the complete Lord like Lord Vishnu. Prahlad Maharaj is nirgun, transcendental to the three modes of nature. He has nothing to do with activities in material goodness, passion, and ignorance by which this world is shackled. Lord Shiva is also beyond the three modes of nature, but he adopts the mode of ignorance to efficiently perform his function. Right? That will be described later. So, I think, let's see. This is a very wonderful lecture here, but about Vaishnava qualities, etc. But I'm going to go on to this next section. 3 considerations by which we can understand the relationship between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva. This is very important. One is called Tattvagata Vichar, the consideration of their relationship by established philosophical truth, tattva, right? Another is called Aishvarya Gata Vichar, the consideration of the relationship in the Supreme Lord's pastimes of majesty. That means the Lord as Lord Narayan, Krishna in Dwarka, Lord Ram, right? Now these forms have qualities of Aishvarya that are very prominent. And then there's Narvat Gata Vichar, the consideration of the relationship in the Lord's sweet human-like pastimes. And some of the pastimes in Dwarka are also human-like, because Krishna is presenting an example as a king. So, according to philosophical truth, Sri Krishna's plenary portion is Sadashiv. And Sadashiv's partial manifestation is Lord Shiva, than when we're generally talking about who interacts in this world. From the perspective of Lord Krishna's pastimes in opulence and majesty, Lord Krishna is Shiva's worshipful deity, who is always loved, honored, and respected by him. However, in Narvat Gata Vichar, Krishna plays another role, that of an ordinary human being. He performs pastimes as a very young, small child who cannot do anything independently. His mother, Srimati Yashoda Devi, feeds him and tends to all his needs. During these human-like pastimes, Lord Shiva might come and give him benedictions. In the scriptures called the Puranas, it is stated that when Krishna resided in Dwarka, he worshipped Shiva to beget a child from the womb of his wife Jambavati. Although Lord Shiva is worshipped by Krishna in those pastimes, he never thinks himself superior. He is always conscious that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he is Krishna's eternal servant. It is essential to have a clear understanding of these truths. One who knows these three perspectives or considerations can understand the relationship between Lord Shiva and his Lord. This is actually quite important because the Puranic literatures, including Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, and all, so many different kinds of stories of Lord Shiva are there, and different stories of Lord Shiva interacting with Sri Krishna, with Lord Ram. And in some of the Puranas, Lord Shiva is directly declared to be the supreme worshipable deity, right? Entity, or at least an independent worshipable deity. Those are those for those in Tamagun, right? To encourage them to make some progress, to have some regulation, right? But as you progress in philosophical understanding, then you can see how Lord Shiva performs pastimes in three different ways for different purposes. And then rather than becoming confused by that, you can reconcile it and understand, oh, okay, he's actually, you understand his position as Sadashiv, as Rudra, as Shambhu, and all the different interactions that he might have with the Lord according to those roles, right? So, he's going to go on and explain something. Wait, let me see what time we have here. Okay, we can do a little more of this. Disappeared. Come back. Okay. According to the principle of philosophical truth, Lord Shiva is a partial manifestation of Sri Krishna's plenary expansion, Sadashiv. When Krishna desires to create, he expands himself as Maha Sankarshan. And possessing this creative desire, Sankarshan expands as Mahavishnu. That's Karnadakshay Vishnu, right? Mahavishnu then desires to create, and his desire takes the form of a light that emanates from between his eyebrows. The semblance or dim twilight reflection of that light is called Shambhu Linga, Lord Shiva. Many people worship Lord Shiva in the form of Shambhu Linga. The light itself is eternal and is not Shambhu Linga. Shambhu Linga is its semblance or shadow. So the desire to create, the creative desire, originates in the heart of the Lord himself, Sri Krishna. And based on that, his expansion, Lord Baladev, is the predominating deity of the Sandhini Shakti, which is the basis of all existence, from which all creative forms are resting or come from. But the energy for that comes from the Shakti, which comes from Srimati Radhika, right? And so Lord Baladev oversees, Krishna is the predominating deity of Chit Shakti, which is the knowledge of one's identity, one's rasa, one's relationship, the compulsion, desire to perform loving pastimes with all different kinds of people, right? The natural quality and condition of the eternal soul. And the pleasure and impetus for that, the pleasure-giving potency, Ladini, the quality of love and happiness, the predominating deity is Radhika herself. She's the very embodiment of Ladini Shakti. Right? So Shakti is that which is the energy by all of this happening. So Krishna has the original desire to create, and his energy, Srimati Radhika, provides the ability to do all that. Right? So the material universe must also exist because Krishna's Leela has to be complete. So Krishna himself, or Baladev, even Mahasankarshan and Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, they're not going to have any connection with the material universe. So there's a special incarnation, Karnadakshay Vishnu, who comes from this Mahasankarshan. And that form of the Lord is empowered to have the desire for the material creation. But even he does not directly connect with the material energy. But he casts the energizing glance towards that material energy, and then that creative potency and the living entities and time are carried by the semblance of his glance. That's that special form of Lord Shiva. And the special form of Shakti, of Ramadevi, she empowers and creates by her own expansion Mahamaya, right? And combined, Mahamaya and Lord Shiva, Shambhu, they do for the material universe what Krishna, Radha Krishna, Dwarkadish Krishna and his goddesses of fortune, Lakshmi Narayan, all the different Lord and his energetic consorts do in the spiritual universes. So, there's another semblance called Yoni, and this is the shadow of Ramadevi. Ramadevi is the spiritual potency of Mahavishnu, and in Vaikuntha, she is Lord Narayan's beloved consort, Lakshmi Devi. This is her original transcendental form, and her shadow is the limited conceiving potency, Yoni. Mahavishnu has two types of potency with which he creates the material worlds. This is also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the chapter of Nityananda Prabhu. One type of potency is called nimitta, the instrumental cause of creation. And the other is called upadan, the ingredient cause. Instrumental and ingredient causes can be explained in this way. Suppose I killed a snake with a stick. The person who desired and performed the activity is the instrumental cause, the nimitta. And the stick is the ingredient cause, the upadan. In another example, a potter makes a pot. The desire or will of the potter to make the pot is the instrumental cause. The sum total of the instruments used to create it, like the wheel, the clay, the mud, and the water, the ingredient cause. Right? So the original desire and intelligence and potency, that's the nimitta. Right? And the ingredients with which that's carried out, that's the ingredient. The nimitta is the instrumental. Did I get it mixed up? Nimitta is the intelligence and the original desire. Upadan is that which is used to carry out that desire. Okay. So, Mahavishnu's eternal instrumental potency, that's his desire and his power, takes its reflected form as Yoni, the limited shadow potency. And the ingredient cause assumes the reflection form of Shambhu Linga. Creation then takes place by the union of Shambhu Linga and his female consort Yoni. Shambhu is called the Linga of the Supreme Lord, which means that he is the manifest symbol of the Lord's male generative capacity, and he appears for the purpose of preparing the cosmic manifestation. That potency which gives birth to the material creation is the energy called Maya, and her intrinsic form is Yoni. So, one more paragraph. Actually, it's a little technical. Hope you're not glazing over here. It's more even technically described in the Brahma Samhita. This is very nicely summarized by Srila Narayan Raj. But it takes a while to hear it, to let it all set. Actually, the original instrumental and ingredient cause is not Yoni and Shambhu. It is Mahavishnu. This is what's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's the original. He has both, right? Material nature as yoni desires to create by dint of the kama bij, the desire seed, impregnated in her. And she is therefore the secondary instrumental cause. So the desire seed gave her the urge to create. And because she then wanted to create, she is called the instrumental cause. Shambhu supplies the materials of creation, the jivas, the time factor, right? And he is therefore called the ingredient cause. Shambhu, the dim reflection of the Supreme Lord's own divine desired-filled glance, consummates his union with Yoni. However, he can do nothing independent of the energy of Mahavishnu. So he actually carries Lord Vishnu's, Mahavishnu's desire and impregnates that into the Yoni. That is Mahamaya. Mahamaya exists as a potential. She's not, her energy is like dormant. But when she's stimulated and that desire for creation is carried and injected into her by Lord Shiva, he carries that desire, then she becomes the bearer of that desire. And she desires to create. And then he introduces the energetic seeds in the form of all these living entities, and then also the time factor, which says now, here's the energy, now begin, right? And then the dormant pradhan becomes mahatattva, right? Which is, the next less subtle form of the whole creation. It's not divided up into the different elements and objects of senses and senses yet, but it's beginning to coalesce and take form. So Mahavishnu is the supreme personified will, and it is he who brings about the union of the two, Yoni and Shambhu. He is the divine dominating person, the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, and the creator of the mundane world. In order for creation to take place, there must be the desire of the supreme doer. He must be present. The instrumental cause and the ingredient cause must be mixed with the desire or glance of Mahavishnu. The initial form of the creation is Mahatattva, the sum total 24 elements. Mahatattva is the sum total of the 24 elements. This Mahatattva is the reflection of the Kama Bij, the original desire seed in Goloka Vrindavan. The seed of amorous creative desire in Goloka is the embodiment of pure cognition. Right? Pure cognition is Samvit Shakti, right? It is a prototype of the sex desire in this material world. Sex desire in the sense, in its pure form, creation. The desire for pure creation means creating the environment for pure, eternal, loving exchange. The seed of the mundane sex desire is thus the perverted reflection of the seed of the original creative desire in Goloka Vrindavan. So, the 24 elements are 5 gross elements, 3 subtle elements, right? Mind, intelligence, false ego, 10 senses, 5 working senses, 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, 5 sense objects, and the total material cause. So, tomorrow we'll hear about service and pastimes of majesty, and then we'll go on. Yeah, this is pretty great. I hope this isn't, I hope I'm reading this okay, and it does become too confusing, and then I'm not messing it up. Anyway, we're for basis to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, to Mahadev himself, whom we are trying to understand and glorify, and to all the Sambhava Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Gaur Premananda.